I'm a divorce attorney. My mother-in-law read my confidential case files, then gossiped about them over iced tea like it was her Sunday sermon. I threatened to sue her, called her an imbecile, and put her in an Uber to the airport. I didn't even buy her a return ticket. My husband has no idea she's gone. So my mother-in-law comes from a tiny town down south, and she loves to spread rumors like everyone there does. This was never really our problem since we live in big city on the other side of the country from her. Other than her always talking through our whole dinner when she visits to tell us all the crazy gossip about people from her church, we didn't have to put up with this part of her personality much until today. You see, I am a family law attorney with a boutique firm. My specialty is divorces. Mother-in-law loves that I am a divorce attorney. She is always pumping me for stories from work so that she can gossip with her congregation, and rarely I do throw her a bone. Never with specifics, all within my ethical boundaries. For example, I'll tell her, my client has 5 kids but only wants custody of 3. I don't elaborate and just let her feign absolute shock over someone not loving their children equally. My mother-in-law recently came to town for my husband's birthday, and that's how this whole nightmare started. We flew her in because it was a nice thing to do, and up until today, I was fond of her. She's staying with us, and she is always insistent on cleaning my home. She's never snooped before, so it doesn't bother me, but I do very firmly tell her that we have a housekeeper and to just enjoy her vacation. Today I worked from home as I often do when I have no meetings. I was in my home office slaving away on one of my more juicy cases, and I took a break to shower and get ready to take mother-in-law out to lunch. My husband was at work, so it was just us two. I figured we would grab some salads and do some window shopping. What could go wrong? Immediately after the iced teas were served, mother-in-law says, "So whatever happened to Mr. and Mrs. Smith's kids? Did she get custody, or were they destroyed?" She then proceeds to mention odd specifics she could have never known. I literally snorted my tea when she said this. It went everywhere. I looked like the Bellagio fountain. Mother-in-law had the audacity to go through my case files, my confidential case files, and read the facts while I was in the shower. I asked her how she knew so much about the case I was working on, and she said she was cleaning my office while I was getting ready, and that I had just left it out. No, I did not. They make you take an entire class in law school about doing things like this, and if pigs flew and I did leave it out, this case is a monster. To garner that much information about the divorce would require her to turn several pages. So me leaving it out is no excuse, as she would have had to sit her dumb butt down and read through it. It's not like all the facts could have fit on one sheet of paper that just so happened to be lying on my desk. She said she needed to be in my office because it was filthy. I opened my wallet, threw some cash onto the table for what we ordered, and told her to get in the car. I cannot even remember the ride home. I was just yelling and lecturing and lecture yelling. This was an incredibly crappy thing for her to do. Working at a boutique firm, my reputation is everything to my career. I cannot have word on the street that I just go around town spilling client secrets at the local watering hole. She can very well ruin my budding career by doing this. I think I threatened to sue her if she blabbed about this case. I definitely threatened to tell her son what an imbecile his mother is. I threatened to never have her in our home again. It doesn't matter because as soon as we got home, I told her to pack her things or I'll have her arrested for trespassing, and then I called her an Uber and listed the address on my app as the airport. I didn't even pay for her plane ticket. I don't know what's going to happen actually. I do know that she's at the airport right now because that's where the app dropped her off. My husband won't know about any of this until 5:01 p.m. because he works on a secure job site and there's no phone calls or texting. I have steam coming out of my ears. I do feel guilty because she might be stranded at the airport without my financial help, but what she did was so out of line that I think a few hours of time out would do my pettiness some good before I finally call the American Airlines terminal and get her a one-way ticket back to Gossipville, USA. I sat in my home office, staring at the case files scattered across my desk. The Smith divorce papers seemed to mock me with their disarray. My hands shook as I gathered them up, checking each page to see exactly what Mother had read. The custody evaluation reports, the financial statements showing hidden assets, the private investigator's photos of Mr. Smith with his mistress. She'd seen it all. My phone buzzed. A text from the Uber driver confirming drop-off at Terminal 2. Good. Let her figure out how to get home on her own dime. I paced the length of my office, my heels clicking against the hardwood floor. The framed law degree on my wall caught my eye. 7 years of school, 2 bar exams, countless late nights building my reputation, and Mother could destroy it all with one gossipy phone call to her prayer circle. The doorbell rang. My body tensed. Had she somehow gotten another Uber back here? I stormed to the front door and yanked it open. Package for Rachel Martinez? The delivery driver held out a small box. I signed for it and closed the door, my heart still racing. Every sound made me jump. Every car passing by could be her returning to continue her invasion of my privacy. Back in my office, I locked the Smith files in my filing cabinet and spun the combination lock. Then I grabbed my laptop and started drafting an email to my senior partner. Better to get ahead of this disaster. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. How do you explain that your mother-in-law broke into confidential client files? That she might spread details about our highest profile divorce case across her entire Southern Baptist congregation? I deleted the draft and started over, then deleted that one too. The house felt too quiet. Usually Mother would be chattering away about someone's scandalous pregnancy or failed business venture. Now just the hum of the air conditioner filled the space. I checked my phone, 2:47 p.m. Marcus wouldn't be able to call for another 2 hours. By then, Mother might be halfway back to Georgia, or still sitting in the airport, calling everyone she knew to complain about her horrible daughter-in-law. My laptop dinged with a new email. My stomach dropped when I saw the sender. Diane Smith, the wronged wife in my biggest case. Dear Ms. Martinez, I wanted to touch base about Thursday's mediation session. I exhaled slowly. Just routine correspondence. But it reminded me how much damage Mother could do if she remembered even half of what she'd read. Diane Smith trusted me with her deepest secrets, her fears about losing her children, her husband's affairs, and hidden bank accounts. I walked to the Kit Martinez and poured myself a glass of water, downing it in 3 gulps. The lunch dishes still sat in the sink from this morning. Mother usually insisted on washing them immediately. Cleanliness is next to godliness, she'd chirp while scrubbing away. My phone rang. Unknown number with a local area code. I let it go to voicemail, then played the message. Ms. Martinez, this is security at the airport. We have a passenger here who says she's your mother-in-law and needs needs assistance purchasing a ticket. I deleted the message before it finished. The afternoon sun slanted through the blinds, casting prison bar shadows across my desk. I tried to focus on other cases, but my mind kept circling back to Mother, pawing through the Smith files. Had she taken photos? Made notes? The woman had a memory like a steel trap when it came to gossip. I pulled up our firm's malpractice insurance policy on my computer. Section 3. 2. Breaches of confidentiality resulting from negligent supervision of third parties. My stomach churned. Leaving files accessible to a houseguest could be considered negligent. Another text buzzed through, this time from our housekeeper, Maria. Hi, Mrs. Martinez. I'm here for my usual Wednesday clean, but no one answered. Should I use my key? I'd completely forgotten. I texted back, yes, please come in. I'm in my office. Maria arrived with her supplies, giving me a concerned look. You okay, Mrs. Martinez? You look upset. I forced a smile. Just a stressful case. She headed upstairs to start with the bedrooms. I heard her humming as she worked, a normal sound on a deeply abnormal day. My phone screen lit up with another unknown number, this time from a Georgia area code. I sent it straight to voicemail. The Smith files seemed to pulse with radioactive energy from inside the locked cabinet. I thought about the photos in there, the ones showing Mr. Smith entering hotels with his 23-year-old assistant, the forensic accountant's report revealing offshore accounts, the emails between Mr. Smith and his business partner discussing how to hide assets from the divorce. If Mother repeated any of that information, even accidentally, it could destroy the case. Mr. Smith's attorney would claim bias, demand a mistrial, maybe even file ethics complaints against me. I opened my laptop again and pulled up our state's Rules of Professional Conduct. Rule 1. 6. Confidentiality of information. A lawyer shall not reveal information relating to the representation of a client without the client's informed consent. The rule didn't have an exception for nosy mothers-in-law. Maria appeared in my doorway. Mrs. Martinez, your mother-in-law's room is empty. Did she leave early? Family emergency, I said quickly. She had to fly home suddenly. Maria nodded and moved on to clean the guest bathroom. I heard her gathering towels and running water. 3:42 p.m. Time crawled like it was moving through molasses. I refreshed my email obsessively, half expecting to see a message from the state bar opening an investigation. My desk phone rang. The caller ID showed our firm's main number. Rachel? My secretary's voice sounded puzzled. I just got the strangest call. Some woman claiming to be your mother-in-law was asking about the Smith case. She said she was worried about the children involved and wanted to know if we were doing everything possible to protect them. Ice flooded my veins. What did you tell her? Nothing, of course. I said I couldn't discuss any cases and hung up. But Rachel, how did she even know about the Smiths? I'll handle it, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. Thanks for letting me know. I hung up and immediately dialed the airport security number that had called earlier. After being transferred 3 times, I finally reached someone who could help. Yes, we have a Mrs. Martinez here. She's been quite upset, saying her daughter-in-law abandoned her. I'll purchase her a ticket home, I said through gritted teeth. Can you please ensure she boards the next available flight to Atlanta? The security officer agreed to escort Mother to the ticket counter once I'd made the purchase. I bought her a one-way ticket on the 5:15 flight, choosing the most expensive option out of spite. 4:15 p.m. 45 minutes until Marcus could call. I drafted a text to send him the moment he was off work. Your mother went through confidential client files in my office. I sent her home. We need to talk. Then I deleted it. This conversation needed to happen face to face. Maria finished cleaning and left with a cheerful goodbye. The house felt even emptier without her humming and the sound of the vacuum. I sat at my desk and started documenting everything. The time I'd discovered Mother in my office, the specific files she'd accessed, her comments at lunch revealing what she'd read, the phone call to my secretary. Everything needed to be recorded in case this blew up into a full ethics investigation. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Todd from seat 23B. Your mother-in-law is on my flight and won't stop crying. She says you threw her out. I turned my phone face down and ignored it. 4:52 p.m. 8 minutes. I saved my documentation file in 3 different places, then password protected each copy. The Smith files remained locked in the cabinet, but I made a note to scan them tomorrow and store digital copies in our firm's secure cloud. The garage door rumbled open at 5:03 p.m. Marcus was home. I heard his footsteps on the stairs, taking them 2 at a time like always. Hey babe, where's mom? He appeared in my office doorway, loosening his tie. I thought we were all going to that new steakhouse tonight. I turned my chair to face him fully. His smile faded as he took in my expression. Marcus, sit down. We need to talk about what your mother did today. Marcus dropped into the chair across from my desk, his work badge still clipped to his shirt pocket. The smile completely vanished from his face as he took in my rigid posture and clenched jaw. What happened? His voice carried that careful tone he used when navigating family drama. Did she say something about your cooking again? I pushed my documentation across the desk toward him. Your mother went through the Smith divorce files while I was in the shower. She read everything. Custody evaluations, financial records, private investigator reports, everything. Marcus's face went through several expressions in rapid succession. Confusion, disbelief, then a dawning horror as he processed what I was saying. He picked up the papers, scanning my timeline of events. She called my office, I continued, watching his hands start to shake. Asked my secretary about the case, used the client's real names. My secretary had to hang up on her. Where is she now? Marcus's voice came out strangled. On a plane back to Georgia. I put her in an Uber to the airport and bought her a ticket home. Marcus stood abruptly, pacing to the window. He pressed his palms against the glass, leaving foggy handprints. She went through confidential files, actually read them. She knew details about custody arrangements, about the children involved. She brought it up at lunch like it was casual conversation. My voice cracked despite my efforts to stay professional. Marcus, she could destroy my career. If she tells even one person at her church, she won't, Marcus said quickly. But even he didn't sound convinced. I'll call her. Make her understand. You can't call her. She's on a plane. I stood and moved around the desk. And even if you could, what would you say? Your mother has never kept a secret in her life. Marcus's phone started ringing. He glanced at the screen and showed it to me. His sister calling from North Carolina. Word traveled fast in their family. Don't answer that, I said. Not until we figure out what to do. But Marcus was already swiping to accept. Hey sis. His voice sounded artificially calm. What's up? I could hear his sister's voice from across the room, high-pitched and accusatory. Marcus held the phone away from his ear as she ranted about family loyalty, and how could he let his wife treat their mother this way? She went through confidential legal documents, Marcus said, trying to interrupt the tirade. She could cost Rachel her job. His sister's response was loud enough for me to hear clearly. Mother was just curious. She didn't mean any harm. You always take Rachel's side. Marcus hung up on her mid-sentence. His phone immediately started ringing again. He powered it off completely. I need to call my senior partner, I said, moving back to my desk. Let him know what happened before this spirals further. Wait, Marcus grabbed my hand before I could pick up the phone. Let me try to fix this first, please. How? Your mother is probably already planning which prayer group to tell first. I pulled my hand away. I could be disbarred, Marcus. Do you understand that? This isn't about family drama anymore. The house phone rang. We both stared at it. The caller ID showed Marcus's aunt from Tennessee. Neither of us moved to answer it. I'll fly down there, Marcus said suddenly. Tonight. I'll meet her plane and make her understand how serious this is. Her flight lands in 3 hours. You'd never make it. I pulled up flight schedules on my laptop anyway, desperate for any solution. The next flight to Atlanta isn't until tomorrow morning. Marcus grabbed his car keys from the desk. Then I'll drive. I can be there by morning. That's 14 hours, Marcus. You're being ridiculous. My mother might destroy your career and you think I'm being ridiculous for trying to stop her? He was already heading for the door. I'll pack a bag and leave now. I followed him to our bedroom, watching him throw clothes into an overnight bag. What are you going to do? Camp outside her house until she agrees not to gossip about my clients. If that's what it takes. He zipped the bag with unnecessary force. She's my mother. This is my responsibility to fix. The doorbell rang, making us both freeze. Marcus and I exchanged glances before heading downstairs together. Through the peephole, I saw our next-door neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, holding a casserole dish. I opened the door cautiously. Hi, Mrs. Patterson. Oh, Rachel, dear. I just wanted to drop this off for your mother-in-law. She was so sweet yesterday, helping me carry in my groceries. Is she feeling better? I saw her leaving in such a rush earlier. My stomach dropped. She had a family emergency back home. Mrs. Patterson's eyes lit up with curiosity. Oh no, I hope everything's all right. She was just telling me yesterday how proud she is of you, working on such important cases. She mentioned something about a custody battle. I gripped the door frame to steady myself. She shouldn't have. I mean, thank you for the casserole. I'll make sure she knows you stopped by. I practically slammed the door in Mrs. Patterson's face. Marcus had gone pale behind me. She's already been talking to the neighbors, I said, my voice hollow. Before she even read the files, she was setting up her gossip network. Marcus's phone, even powered off, somehow managed to buzz with incoming messages. The house phone rang again. This time the caller ID showed his cousin from Florida. I'm still going, Marcus said, but his conviction was wavering. I have to try. Number. I moved to block his path to the door. We need to handle this strategically, not emotionally. I'm calling my senior partner now before this gets worse. I dialed Richard Brennan's direct line, my hands trembling slightly. He answered on the second ring. Richard, it's Rachel Martinez. I have a situation. I explained everything as clinically as possible, from mother reading the files to her phone call to the office. Richard listened without interrupting, which somehow made it worse. I see, he said when I finished. And where is your mother-in-law now? On a flight back to Georgia. She lands in about 2.5 hours. Good. Distance helps. I heard him typing. Rachel, I need you to document everything. Every conversation, every person she might have spoken to about the case. We'll need to do damage control immediately. I've already started documentation. What about the Smith case? Should I withdraw? Absolutely not. That would only raise more questions. More typing. I'm calling an emergency partners meeting for tomorrow morning. Be here at 7 sharp. And Rachel, no more contact with your mother-in-law until we figure out our legal position. The call ended, leaving me staring at my phone. Marcus had sat down heavily on the couch, his overnight bag forgotten at his feet. He's calling a partners meeting, I said unnecessarily. This is really happening. Marcus's phone buzzed again with another message notification. Even powered off, the family network was trying to break through. The house phone rang for the 3rd time. This time I unplugged it from the wall. I'm going to be sick, I said, rushing to the bathroom. I didn't actually vomit, just stood there gripping the sink and staring at my reflection. My carefully applied makeup from this morning seemed to mock me. Just hours ago, my biggest concern had been choosing between Caesar or Cobb salad for lunch. When I emerged, Marcus was on his laptop, typing furiously. I'm emailing my mother, he said without looking up. Maybe if I put it in writing, she'll understand the severity. Don't send anything yet, I warned. Richard said no contact until we know our legal position. She's my mother, and she might have just destroyed my career. The words came out harsher than intended. Your mother, who you said would never snoop. Your mother, who was just being helpful by cleaning. Marcus slammed the laptop shut. Don't put this on me. I didn't tell her to go through your files. You told me she was trustworthy. You said she'd never crossed boundaries before. She hadn't. Marcus stood, running his hands through his hair. In 34 years, she's never done anything like this. My cell phone rang. Diane Smith's number appeared on the screen. My client, calling at 6:47 p.m. This couldn't be good. I have to take this, I said, stepping into my office. Hello, Diane. Rachel, I'm so sorry to call after hours, but I just got the strangest message. Diane's voice was tight with concern. Someone called my sister asking if it was true that I was getting divorced and fighting for custody. They knew details, Rachel. Details I haven't told anyone except you. The room spun slightly. I gripped the edge of my desk. Who called your sister? She didn't recognize the voice, but it was a woman with a southern accent. She said she was praying for our family and wanted to know if the children were safe. Diane's voice cracked. Rachel, how did anyone know? I've been so careful. Diane, I need to look into this immediately. Don't talk to anyone else about the case and document that phone call. Time, exact words, everything you can remember. Did something happen? Is our case compromised? I'm investigating a potential breach. I'll call you first thing tomorrow with more information. I tried to sound reassuring despite my racing heart. Your case is my top priority. After I hung up, I stood frozen in my office. Mother had already started making calls. The gossip chain was in motion, reaching from Georgia to Diane Smith's sister in who knows where. Marcus appeared in the doorway. Was that your client? Someone with a southern accent called her sister. Knew about the divorce, the custody fight. I sank into my desk chair. Your mother is actively sabotaging my case. Marcus pulled out his phone and powered it on, ignoring the flood of notifications. I'm calling her now. Legal position or not, this has to stop. It's too late. Don't you see? She's already talking. The damage is done. Marcus dialed anyway. I heard it ring once before going to voicemail. He tried again. Same result. She's screening my calls, he said, staring at the phone in disbelief. My own mother is screening my calls. His sister's name popped up on the screen with an incoming call. This time, Marcus answered with considerably less patience. What did mother tell you? He demanded without preamble. I heard his sister's sharp intake of breath through the speaker. She said Rachel threw her out on the street, left her stranded at the airport like some criminal. Did she mention why? Did she tell you she went through confidential legal documents? She was cleaning. You know how mother is about messes. Rachel shouldn't leave sensitive papers lying around if she doesn't want people to see them. They were in a closed file on her desk in her private office. Marcus's voice rose. And now she's calling the client's family members. There was a pause. Then his sister's voice, quieter. What do you mean calling family members? Marcus put her on speaker so I could hear better. Mother is spreading information from Rachel's case files. She's telling people about an ongoing divorce case. Real names, real details. She could destroy Rachel's career, and she's doing it anyway. I'm sure you're exaggerating. Mother would never intentionally hurt anyone. Intentional or not, she's doing it. Marcus met my eyes. Has she called you about any divorce cases? Asked you to pray for any families going through custody battles? The silence stretched long enough to be an answer. Oh my God, his sister finally said. She called me an hour ago, said her prayer circle was lifting up a family where the mother was fighting for her children. She used names, Marcus. First and last names. I grabbed a notepad and started writing. What names? What exactly did she say? Who is that? Rachel? His sister's voice turned cold again. This is a family conversation. The family conversation involves my career and my client's privacy. I shot back. What names did she use? Marcus's sister huffed but answered. She said to pray for Diane Smith and her 3 children. Said the husband was hiding money and running around with a younger woman. I thought it was just someone from her church back home. I wrote everything down, my handwriting getting shakier with each word. Mother had given his sister enough information to identify my client and the basic facts of the case. If his sister repeated this to anyone else, the chain would keep growing. You cannot tell anyone what mother told you, Marcus said firmly. Not your husband, not your friends, no one. This is serious. Don't be so dramatic. It's just gossip. It's not gossip when it involves legal proceedings. I couldn't stay quiet anymore. Your mother broke the law by reading those files. If she continues spreading this information, she could be sued. We could be sued. I could lose my license to practice law. Then maybe you should have been more careful with your papers, his sister snapped. Mother didn't mean any harm. She never does. Marcus hung up on her again. His phone immediately lit up with another call. His cousin this time. He declined it. We need to get ahead of this, I said, my mind racing. Every person she tells becomes another potential leak. How big is her prayer circle? About 30 women at her church. Marcus looked sick. Plus whoever she's called personally. 30 women, each of whom probably had their own networks of friends, family, co-workers. The exponential spread of gossip made my head spin. My phone rang again. This time it was my secretary's personal cell. Rachel, I'm so sorry to bother you at home, she said as soon as I answered. But I just got another call. This time it was someone claiming to be from a prayer group, asking if we were handling the Smith divorce. They knew the children's names, Rachel. They asked if little Emma was adjusting to the custody arrangement. Emma Smith, age 7, the middle child who'd been struggling since her parents' separation. Details that were supposed to be confidential, protected by attorney-client privilege. Did you get the caller's name? I asked, though I suspected I already knew the answer. She said her name was Catherine, from First Baptist in Macon. Said your mother-in-law had asked for prayers for the family. I thanked my secretary and hung up. Catherine from First Baptist, one of Mother's prayer circle friends, now armed with enough information to identify and potentially contact my client. I need to warn Diane, I said, already pulling up her contact information again. Her children could be approached by strangers claiming to be praying for them. Wait, Marcus put his hand over mine. Let me try something first. He scrolled through his contacts and dialed a number I didn't recognize. After several rings, a man's voice answered. Uncle Pete, it's Marcus. He took a deep breath. I need you to do something for me. Mother's gotten herself into serious legal trouble, and I need you to stop her before she makes it worse. I listened as Marcus explained the situation to his uncle, Mother's older brother who lived 2 towns over from her. Uncle Pete, from what I gathered, was one of the few people who could actually make Mother listen. She did what? Uncle Pete's voice was loud enough for me to hear. That woman never did have the sense God gave a goose. I'll drive over there right now. She's still on a plane, Marcus said. Lands in about 90 minutes. Then I'll be waiting at her house when she gets home. And Marcus, you tell your wife I'm sorry about this. Your mother means well, but she's got more curiosity than common sense. After Marcus hung up, we sat in silence for a moment. The house felt different now, contaminated by the breach of trust. Every surface Mother had touched while cleaning seemed suspicious. I should check my office again, I said, standing abruptly. Make sure nothing else is missing or disturbed. Marcus followed me to my home office. I surveyed the space with fresh eyes, noting every detail. The Smith files were back in the locked cabinet, but what else had she touched? I opened my desk drawers, checking each one. Everything seemed to be in place, but how could I be sure? The password to my computer, I said suddenly. She was in here alone. What if she got into my computer? I quickly logged in and checked the browser history, recent documents, email access logs. Everything appeared normal, but the paranoia had taken root. How long had she been in here? What else had she seen? My work laptop dinged with a new email. The sender made my blood run cold. Thomas Smith's attorney. Dear Ms. Martinez, I read aloud. It has come to my attention that confidential information regarding our clients may have been compromised. I have been contacted by an individual claiming to have details about the case that could only have come from your files. Please advise immediately as to the nature and extent of this breach. I trust you understand the serious implications for your client and your firm. Marcus swore under his breath. How did he find out so fast? Because your mother probably called everyone in her phone book the moment she landed. I forwarded the email to Richard with shaking hands. This is it. This is how it ends. With a malpractice suit and disbarment. Don't catastrophize. We'll figure this out. Catastrophize? I spun to face him. Your mother has turned my biggest case into a 3-ring circus. The opposing counsel knows about the breach. My client's family is getting calls from strangers. This is already a catastrophe. Marcus's phone rang again. This time he looked at the screen and paled. It's my dad. He answered reluctantly. Hey, Dad. I couldn't hear his father's words. words, but I watched Marcus's face cycle through emotions, frustration, anger, then something like defeat. No, Dad, you don't understand, Marcus said. This isn't about taking sides. Mother broke the law. Yes, actual law. No, Rachel didn't overreact. The one-sided conversation continued for several minutes, with Marcus growing more agitated. Finally, he cut his father off mid-sentence. Dad, I love you, but you're wrong. Mother screwed up big time, and protecting her from consequences isn't helping anyone. I'll call you tomorrow. He hung up and immediately turned his phone off again. He says Mother is hysterical, says we've humiliated her in front of the whole family. She humiliated herself by going through my files. I know that. You think I don't know that? Marcus slumped against the wall. But they don't see it that way. To them, she's just a sweet old lady who made a tiny mistake, and we're the villains who threw her out. My laptop dinged with another email. Richard had responded already. Do not reply to opposing counsel. Emergency meeting moved to tonight, 8 p.m. at the office. Bring all documentation. I looked at the clock. 7:15 p.m. I had 45 minutes to gather everything and get downtown. I have to go, I told Marcus, already printing out my documentation. Emergency meeting with the partners. I'm coming with you. You can't. This is about my job, my career, which my mother jeopardized. I'm coming. His tone left no room for argument. I gathered my papers, the printed emails, my notes from every conversation. The stack seemed pitifully small considering it represented the potential end of my career. 7 years of law school, 2 bar exams, countless hours building my reputation, all reduced to a manila folder of evidence about my mother-in-law's nosiness. The drive downtown was tense. Marcus fielded 3 more calls from family members, each one having heard a different version of events. His aunt thought I'd physically thrown Mother out. His cousin heard I'd called the police. Each iteration grew more dramatic, painting me as an unhinged daughter-in-law who'd snapped over nothing. Let them think what they want, I said, navigating through evening traffic. Their opinions won't matter when I'm disbarred. You're not going to be disbarred. You don't know that. You don't know how this works. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. 1 ethics complaint, 1 formal investigation, and everything I've worked for disappears. We pulled into the parking garage of my firm's building at 7:55 p.m. The usually bustling office building felt eerily quiet at this hour. The security guard nodded as we passed, probably wondering why anyone was here so late. The elevator ride to the 14th floor felt endless. When the doors opened, I saw the conference room lights already on. Through the glass walls, I could see Richard and 2 other senior partners, Margaret Walsh and David Kim. Their expressions were grim. Wait here, I told Marcus, indicating the reception area chairs. This is something I need to face alone. He looked like he wanted to argue, but nodded. I'll be right here. I entered the conference room with my folder clutched against my chest. The 3 partners looked up simultaneously, their faces unreadable. Sit, Richard said, gesturing to a chair across from them. It felt like facing a firing squad. Tell us everything from the beginning. Don't leave out any detail. For the next hour, I recounted the entire day, from working on the Smith files that morning to the phone call from opposing counsel. The partners interrupted occasionally with questions, their expressions growing more concerned with each revelation. How many people has she potentially told? Margaret asked, making notes on her legal pad. At minimum, her prayer circle of 30 women, plus family members. We've confirmed at least 4, and whoever else she called between landing and now. And she used real names, first and last? David's tone was sharp. Yes, my client's sister received a call asking about Diane Smith by name. My secretary was asked about the Smith children, including their first names. The partners exchanged glances. Richard leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. This is bad, Rachel. I won't sugarcoat it. We're looking at potential malpractice claims, ethics violations, and a complete breakdown of client confidentiality. I know. I take full responsibility. The files were in my home office. I should have been more careful. Should you have anticipated that a house guest would deliberately read confidential documents? Margaret's voice was surprisingly gentle. That's the question the ethics board will ask. She'd never shown any inclination to snoop before, I said, though it sounded weak even to me. She's been in my office dozens of times. But you knew about her gossip tendencies, David pointed out. You mentioned she pumps you for stories to share with her church. My stomach sank. He was right. I'd known about Mother's love of gossip, had even fed it occasionally with sanitized anecdotes. Had I been negligent in leaving her alone with access to files? Here's what's going to happen, Richard said, taking control. First, we're going to send a cease and desist letter to your mother-in-law tonight. Legal will draft it within the hour. Second, you'll call the Smith case first thing tomorrow and disclose the breach. Full transparency is our only option. Should I offer to withdraw from the case? Number that suggests guilt. You'll explain the situation, apologize, and let them decide. Richard paused. Third, we're going to self-report to the state bar. Better to get ahead of it than wait for opposing counsel to file a complaint. The words, self-report to the state bar, echoed in my head. This was really happening. My career was imploding because my mother-in-law couldn't mind her own business. What about damage control? Margaret asked. Can we contain the spread of information? I have my husband's uncle intervening with his mother, I offered. He's waiting at her house to confront her when she gets home. Good. We need her to understand the legal ramifications immediately. Richard stood, signaling the meeting was coming to an end. Rachel, go home. Get some rest. Tomorrow is going to be difficult. Am I suspended? The partners exchanged another look. Not at this time, Richard said carefully, but you'll need to be prepared for that possibility depending on how the client and the bar respond. I gathered my papers with numb fingers. The partners remained seated, undoubtedly planning to discuss my fate the moment I left. The walk back to reception felt like a funeral march. Marcus jumped up when he saw me. How bad? Bad. They're sending a cease and desist to your mother. I have to tell my client tomorrow. They're self-reporting to the bar. The color drained from his face. Rachel, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this. The words came out harsher than intended, but I was too exhausted to soften them. Sorry doesn't undo the damage she's done. The drive home was silent, except for Marcus's phone buzzing with more family messages. Each notification felt like another nail in my professional coffin. By the time we pulled into our garage, I'd received 3 emails from Richard with drafts of various letters. The cease and desist, the disclosure to my client, the self-report to the bar. Inside, the house felt different. Violated. Every room Mother had been in seemed tainted by her betrayal. I went straight to my office and began the process of securing everything. Password protecting files wasn't enough anymore. I needed physical physical locks, safes, a complete security overhaul. Marcus appeared in the doorway with a cup of tea, a peace offering. Uncle Pete just texted. He's at Mother's house. She got home 20 minutes ago. And she's refusing to talk to him. Locked herself in her bedroom and won't come out. I laughed, but it was bitter and sharp. Of course she is. Why face consequences when you can hide? Marcus's phone rang. Uncle Pete's name appeared on the screen. Marcus put it on speaker. Son, your mother is being more stubborn than a mule in mud. Uncle Pete's gravelly voice filled the room. She keeps saying she didn't do anything wrong, that she was just concerned about those poor children. Did you explain about the legal ramifications? Marcus asked. I tried. She won't hear it. Says you're both overreacting and that Rachel is trying to turn you against your family. There was a pause. Marcus, I hate to say this about my own sister, but she's already been on the phone. I can hear her in there talking to someone about the case. My hands clenched into fists. Even now, even after everything, she was still spreading my client's private information. Can you take her phone? I asked desperately. I'm not going to assault an elderly woman, even if she is my fool sister, Uncle Pete said, but I'll stay here tonight. Try to talk sense into her in the morning. After he hung up, Marcus and I stood in my office, surrounded by the locked files and security measures that had failed to protect my career. It was 10:47 p.m. Mother had been home for less than an hour and was already back to gossiping. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Emma Smith's teacher. I just received a concerning call about the family situation. Can we discuss? The room tilted. Mother's gossip had reached my client's child's teacher. I screenshot the message and added it to my growing documentation file. It's spreading like wildfire, I said, my voice hollow. By tomorrow, everyone in their lives will know about the divorce. Marcus pulled me into his arms, but I stood rigid, unable to accept the comfort. His mother had lit a match, and my career was the kindling. We'll get through this, he murmured against my hair. No, I said, pulling away. I'll get through this. You'll be dealing with your family, who all think I'm the villain in this story. I'm on your side. You know that. Are you? Because from where I'm standing, you brought this chaos into my life. Your mother, your family, your drama. The words hung between us, sharp and painful. Marcus stepped back as if I'd slapped him. That's not fair. Fair? I laughed again, that same bitter sound. Nothing about this is fair, but it's the truth. Your mother destroyed my career, and your family is rallying around her like she's the victim. Marcus's phone buzzed again. Another family member, no doubt. Another person who'd heard Mother's version of events and wanted to weigh in. The vultures were circling, and I was the carrion. I stared at the screen of my phone, watching more unknown numbers pile up in my missed calls. The clock on my laptop showed 11:23 p.m. Sleep wasn't happening tonight. Marcus had retreated to the guest room after our confrontation, leaving me alone in my office fortress of locked cabinets and password-protected files. Fat lot of good any of it did now. My laptop chimed with another email, this time from Diane Smith herself, marked urgent. My finger hovered over the mouse before clicking open. Rachel, I need to speak with you immediately. My ex-husband just called claiming he knows about the private investigator. He's threatening to use this information to challenge the custody evaluation. Please call me as soon as you get this. The walls of my office seemed to close in. Mother's gossip had reached Mr. Smith. Of course it had. In a city of millions, information still traveled through prayer circles and beauty parlors faster than any internet connection. I dialed Diane's number, bracing myself for the conversation. She answered on the first ring. He knows everything, Diane said without preamble. The offshore accounts, the photos with his mistress, even the forensic accountant's findings. He's saying I hired a PI to stalk him, and that I'm an unfit mother who's teaching our children to spy. My hand gripped the phone tighter. Diane, I need to be completely transparent with you. There's been a breach of confidentiality in your case. The silence on the other end stretched for several heartbeats. When Diane spoke again, her voice was deadly quiet. Explain. I told her everything, keeping my voice steady and professional despite the churning in my stomach. The unauthorized access to her files, the spread of information through Mother's network, the steps we were taking to contain the damage. So, your mother-in-law read my private information and decided to share it with her prayer group? Diane's voice had gone from quiet to arctic, and now my ex-husband has ammunition he never should have had? I take full responsibility. The firm is prepared to— I don't want to hear about what the firm is prepared to do. Diane cut me off. I want to know how this helps my children when their father is now using illegally obtained information against me. She hung up before I could respond. I set my phone down with trembling hands and opened my laptop to draft yet another email to Richard. The situation had escalated beyond damage control into active harm to our client's case. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Can we talk? I ignored it and kept typing. The email to Richard was clinical, detailing my conversation with Diane and the confirmed breach reaching opposing parties. Each word felt like another nail in my professional coffin. The house creaked with nighttime settling sounds. Every noise made me jump, half expecting Mother to materialize in my doorway with more excuses about cleanliness and good intentions. My phone rang again. Richard's name on the screen at 11:47 p.m. couldn't mean anything good. I just got off the phone with opposing counsel, Richard said without preamble. They're filing an emergency motion tomorrow morning. They want the case dismissed with prejudice and are threatening a formal bar complaint. Can they do that? Use information obtained through— They're claiming you negligently allowed access to confidential files, that your lack of proper security measures constitutes malpractice. Richard's voice was tired. Rachel, I need you to come in first thing tomorrow. Bring everything. Every note, every communication, every piece of documentation you have. After he hung up, I sat in the darkness of my office, the glow of my laptop screen casting shadows on the walls. 7 years of law school, 2 bar exams, 5 years building my reputation at the firm, all undone by Mother's inability to mind her own business. My phone lit up with another text from Marcus. Please, I'm trying to help. I found him in the guest room, sitting on the edge of the bed with his laptop open. Dark circles had already formed under his eyes. I've been researching, he said, turning the screen toward me. Legal precedents for third-party breaches of confidentiality. There's a case from 2018 where— Stop. I held up my hand. You can't fix this with Google searches and good intentions. Then tell me what I can do. His voice cracked with frustration. My mother destroyed your career. At least let me try to help rebuild it. There's nothing to rebuild. Don't you get it? I sank into the desk chair across from him. By tomorrow morning, I'll likely be suspended. By next week I could be facing a bar investigation. Your mother didn't just read some files, Marcus. She weaponized that information. Marcus's phone rang. He glanced at the screen and showed it to me. Uncle Pete calling at midnight. Put it on speaker, I said, too exhausted to care anymore. Marcus, boy, you need to know something. Uncle Pete's voice was grim. I finally got into your mother's room. She's got a notebook. She wrote down everything from those files. Names, dates, financial information. She's been calling people from a list. My blood turned to ice. A list? Her entire church directory. She's been working through it alphabetically. Got through the M's before I stopped her. Marcus and I exchanged horrified looks. The M's. In a directory of probably 200 people. That meant she'd called at least 100 members of her congregation. Where's the notebook now? Marcus asked. I've got it. But Marcus, she made copies. Gave them to her friend Catherine to pray over. That woman's probably got half the town praying for those poor Smith children by now. After Uncle Pete hung up, Marcus and I sat in stunned silence. The scope of the breach had expanded beyond my worst nightmares. Mother hadn't just gossiped. She'd created a distributed network of information, spreading my clients' secrets across state lines. My laptop dinged with another email. Thomas Smith's attorney had sent a formal notice. They were filing complaints with the state bar, pursuing malpractice claims, and seeking sanctions against our firm. I'm going down there, Marcus said suddenly, standing up. I'll get the notebook, track down every copy, make them understand. It's too late for that. I pulled up my resignation letter template. The information is out there. You can't put toothpaste back in the tube. You're not resigning. Marcus closed my laptop. We're going to fight this. With what? Your mother created a paper trail of her breach. She distributed copies. She turned my client's divorce into community theater for her entire congregation. I reopened the laptop. I'm done, Marcus. This is over. The front door chimed. We both froze. At 12:23 a.m., unexpected visitors meant nothing good. Marcus went to check while I saved my half-written resignation letter. He returned with an envelope. Courier service, he said, handing it to me. From your office. Inside was a formal notice from the firm. Emergency all-hands meeting at 6 a.m. My presence was required. The subtext was clear. Come in early to clean out your desk before regular business hours. I set the notice aside and returned to my resignation letter. Better to jump than be pushed. Marcus's phone rang again, this time his father. Don't answer it, I said, but Marcus was already accepting the call. Son, your mother's in the hospital. His father's voice was shaky. She collapsed at home. Pete called an ambulance. They're saying it's a panic attack, but she keeps clutching her chest. Marcus went pale. Is she okay? They're running tests. She keeps crying about Rachel hating her, about ruining everything. Son, what happened? Marcus looked at me, torn between family crisis and marital loyalty. I made the choice for him. Go, I said. Your mother needs you. Rachel, just go. I have to prepare for tomorrow anyway. After Marcus left, I sat alone in my office, drafting and redrafting my resignation letter. Each version felt either too bitter or too accepting of blame. How do you summarize the implosion of your career in professional language? My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Victoria Martinez from Channel 7 News. We received a tip about a major breach of attorney-client privilege involving a high-profile divorce. Can you comment? The media, of course. Mother's prayer circle had reached someone who thought this was newsworthy. I deleted the text and blocked the number, but 3 more journalists had already left voicemails. By 2 a.m., I'd finished my resignation letter and started packing my office. 5 years of career mementos fit depressingly easily into 2 boxes. The framed law degree came off the wall last, leaving a pale rectangle on the paint. My phone rang. Diane Smith again. My husband's attorney just sent over their emergency motion, she said. They're not just trying to dismiss the case. They're seeking full custody based on my reckless endangerment of the children's privacy by hiring an incompetent attorney. Diane, I'm so sorry. I don't want apologies. I want to know what your firm is going to do to fix this. I'm resigning effective immediately. The firm will assign you new counsel who— You're abandoning me? Diane's voice rose. After your family destroyed my case, you're just walking away? I'm trying to minimize further damage to your case by removing myself. Unbelievable. She laughed bitterly. You know what the ironic part is? I chose you because you seemed ethical, trustworthy, someone who would protect my family's secrets. The line went dead. I added Diane's name to the list of people I'd failed. By 3 a.m., I'd showered, dressed in my best suit, and loaded my boxes into my car. The house felt empty without Marcus, but I was grateful for the solitude. Some humiliations were better faced alone. The drive to the office at 4:30 a.m. was surreal. Empty streets, dark buildings, the city still asleep while my career died its final death. I used my keycard to enter the building, probably for the last time. The 14th floor was already buzzing with activity despite the early hour. Richard stood by the conference room with Margaret and David, all looking haggard. Through the glass walls, I could see other associates trickling in, confusion and concern on their faces. Rachel, Richard motioned me over. Before we go in there, you should know that 3 more clients have called. The information your mother-in-law spread has reached other cases. The Smith divorce wasn't the only file she photographed. The floor seemed to tilt. What? Your computer history shows she accessed at least 4 other client files while you were in the shower. The Johnsons' adoption proceedings, the Martinez custody modification, the Williams estate dispute. He paused. She took photos of all of them. I gripped the wall for support. Multiple cases, multiple breaches, multiple families whose private matters were now circulating through Mother's Prayer Network. How many people know? I asked. We're trying to determine the scope, but conservative estimate, at least 200 people have some level of information about our clients' private matters. 200 people. Each one a potential leak, a possible contact to opposing counsel, a threat to our clients' interests. I have my resignation letter, I said, pulling the envelope from my bag. Richard didn't take it. Let's get through this meeting first. The conference room filled quickly. 20 attorneys and staff, all pulled from their beds for an emergency that I'd caused. Richard stood at the head of the table, outlining the situation in clinical terms. Multiple breaches, client information compromised, media attention incoming, potential bar investigations for everyone involved in these cases. This is the worst breach of client confidentiality in our firm's history, Richard said. We're looking at potential malpractice claims in the millions. Our insurance carrier has already been notified. Questions flew around the table. How did this happen? What security measures failed? Who was responsible for oversight? All eyes turned to me. I stood on shaking legs. My mother-in-law accessed files in my home office without authorization. I take full responsibility responsibility for the security failure. Your mother-in-law? One of the junior associates looked incredulous. You let family members access client files? She didn't have permission. She went through them while I was out of the room. In your home? Another attorney shook his head. You were working on sensitive cases in an unsecured home environment? The questions came faster, each one highlighting my failures. Why weren't the files locked? Why was she alone with them? How could I be so careless with client information? Enough, Richard said finally. Recriminations won't fix this. We need solutions. The next 2 hours were a blur of crisis management. Teams assigned to contact affected clients. Strategies for responding to opposing counsel. Talking points for media inquiries. Damage control on every front. At 7 a.m., my phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Mom's stable. Admitted for observation. Where are you? I didn't respond. His family crisis would have to wait. By 8 a.m., the first news story had broken. Major law firm faces ethics investigation after massive privacy breach. My name wasn't mentioned yet, but it would be. These things always came out. Richard pulled me aside as the meeting broke up. The partners have discussed your situation. We're not accepting your resignation. I blinked in surprise. I'm not fired? You're suspended pending investigation. But Rachel, you're a good attorney who made a terrible mistake in trusting the wrong person. We're not throwing you away over this. The clients will be reassigned temporarily. You'll work on internal research and writing. No client contact until this is resolved. He paused. It's going to be a long road back, but if you're willing to do the work, we're willing to stand by you. I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a lifeline. My phone rang. Marcus. She's asking for you, he said. I know you hate her right now, but she's genuinely distraught. The doctors are worried about her heart. I can't, Marcus. Not today. Please, just 5 minutes. She needs to apologize. Her apology won't fix what she's broken. I know, but Rachel, she's still my mother, and despite everything, she never meant for this to happen. I thought about all the families whose privacy had been shattered, the clients who trusted me with their secrets, the career I'd built so carefully, now in ruins. Intent doesn't matter, I said. The damage is done. By noon, I was back home, sitting in my violated office when the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw a process server. The first lawsuit had arrived. Diane Smith was suing me personally for malpractice. More would follow. I signed for the papers and closed the door. In my office, I pulled out a legal pad and began strategizing my defense. If I was going down, I'd go down fighting. My phone buzzed with another text from Marcus. Coming home. We need to talk about our marriage. I stared at the words, knowing what they meant. The breach had broken more than my career. At 4 p.m., Marcus walked through the door. We sat across from each other at the Kit Martinez table, the divorce papers he'd picked up from a colleague between us. Is this what you want? He asked. I thought about trust, about the sanctity of marriage, about the ways family could destroy what you'd built. I don't know what I want anymore, I admitted. But I know I can't look at you without seeing her, without remembering how this all fell apart. Marcus pushed the papers aside. Then we work on that. Therapy, time, whatever it takes. Your family will have to accept boundaries or lose access to our lives. His voice was firm. I choose you, Rachel, even if that means cutting them off completely. The words hung between us, heavy with promise and pain. Over the following weeks, we began the slow work of rebuilding. Couples therapy twice a week, individual counseling for the trauma. Marcus installed a security system that would make Fort Knox jealous. Mother remained in Georgia, her calls blocked, her letters returned unopened. The bar investigation proceeded slowly. Character witnesses testified on my behalf. Clients wrote letters of support. Even Diane Smith, once her initial anger cooled, acknowledged that I'd been a victim too. 3 months later, I received the ruling. Censure and mandatory ethics training, but no disbarment. I could keep practicing law. The firm welcomed me back to limited duty. Research and writing only. No client contact for a year. It was humbling, but it was something. Marcus and I moved to a new house, one without memories of mother's invasion. We installed locks on every door, security cameras in every room. Trust, once broken, required constant vigilance to rebuild. 6 months after the breach, I received a letter forwarded from the firm. Mother's handwriting, postmarked from Georgia. Marcus and I looked at it together before feeding it into the shredder, unread. Some apologies came too late. Some bridges, once burned, couldn't be rebuilt. But slowly, carefully, we built new ones. Stronger foundations, better boundaries. The understanding that family was something you chose to create, not something you were obligated to endure. My career recovered gradually. New clients came, drawn by the story of an attorney who'd survived the worst breach imaginable and fought to make it right. The Smith case settled eventually, with Diane getting primary custody despite the chaos. A year later, I made partner, the youngest in the firm's history, Richard said, to overcome such adversity and emerge stronger. Marcus and I renewed our vows on our 5th anniversary. Small ceremony. Just us, the officiant, and 2 witnesses from the firm. No family. The way we wanted it. We built our life carefully after that. Each decision weighed against the lesson mother had taught us, that good intentions without boundaries could destroy everything you held dear. That family without respect was just shared DNA. That some mistakes, while forgivable, were never forgettable. The locks stayed on every door. The files stayed at the office. And mother stayed in Georgia, praying for a forgiveness that would never come.